Take a moment to think about the most adventurous thing you've ever done. Think about something that has taken you outside your comfort zone. Last summer, I went on a 1-month-long backpacking trip. I hiked over 100 miles throughout the Rockies of Wyoming with a program named NOLS. NOLS is short for National Outdoor Leadership School, and it immerses its participants into the wild and helps develop their leadership skills, while also creating an amazing and unforgettable experience. That trip was unlike anything I'd ever done before. I remember lying in bed the night before the trip and thinking, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? The next day, I was in the town of Lander, Wyoming, which held the NOLS headquarters. The town was small and walking around it felt normal. But when I looked past the tops of the buildings, I would see the mountains imposing down on me, and I would again think, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? The next morning, my 1-month-long, 100-mile-long journey began. We arrived at our trailhead, and I put on my pack. With the tent, food, clothing, and other miscellaneous gear, it ended up weighing around 60 pounds, but it felt like 100. We proceeded to walk up a slight incline for about 50 yards, and I swear that was the end for me. 10 minutes into the trip, and I already felt like I couldn't do the rest of it. And with the mountains in front of me, thousands of feet up, it just seemed impossible. My entire mindset about the trip and myself drastically changed on day 7. Up until that point, I still felt unsure about my abilities and whether or not I was going to be able to make it through the rest of the trip. But that was about to change. I woke up early at 6:30. It was a cold morning, and there was a crispness to the air. We camped along Ross Lake. It was beautiful. I felt like I was in my own oasis, secluded by the mountains. I had made the terrible decision that morning to make cream of wheat for breakfast, easily the worst meal that I had by far during the trip. After none of my group mates ate the breakfast that I slaved away at making, we slowly packed up our gear, my pack now feeling like hundreds of pounds. Our first obstacle was a deep and raging river. The only way across was through. With my boots drenched, my legs tired, and my back in pain, we were off to a great start. We ended up making our way through a dense forest. It felt like a jungle. This forced me to lead our group. I scouted for the best routes for us to go. Well, should we go this way or that way? Well, they look the same, so that way. I felt like I was becoming a new person, a person with more confidence. I would check in with my group to make sure they were fed and well hydrated. Now, this was one of the toughest moments of the trip. I opened my snack container to find my cold, gooey cream of wheat. Absolutely disgusting. After my group judged me for downing the whole bowl of it, we continued on. The trip was unrelenting. We traversed over 5 boulder fields, which consisted of massive boulders that we had to navigate a pathway through. These were exhausting because you had to keep your balance with your massive pack on. I would think, would it be better to fall this way or that way? Well, the rocks look softer this way, so I choose that way. And after all that, we were luckily not done. We had the hardest part of the hike in front of us. I stood at the base of a steep, snowy mountain that extended hundreds of feet up. And of course, we needed to make it to the top. Now, why was this one of the hardest parts of the hike? It was at the end of a nearly 10-hour-long hike, and every time you'd step in the snow, you'd sink to about your waist. And I swear every time that happened, I would have been fine to have been left behind. I played this game in my head. How many steps can I go before sinking in? I could never go more than 3. Every time I'd fall in, I would end up doing these one-legged squats with the complete weight of me, my pack, and with my tired legs. It was exhausting. I felt like I would never make it to the top. I would have either died of exhaustion or given up. But it was all worth it for this moment right here, when I had finally made it to the top and finished my hike. I truly found greater happiness in that moment. And I'm not just saying that because I was done with the pain of getting to that point, but because I actually learned about myself. I found greater confidence in my abilities and the others around me. And looking out into the vast mountain range after a hike like that truly unlocked a special appreciation for nature. I will never forget that moment. Okay, so now you must be thinking, cool story, Ian, maybe a little long, but I could never do a trip like that, or I would never want to do a trip like that. And I completely understand. But I think finding your own unique experiences is key to developing who you are. Putting yourself outside your comfort zone teaches you a tremendous amount. I've learned many things that have changed me. The importance and true beauty of nature, the value of food and how we should have a greater appreciation for it, the necessity of trusting others to do their job, and vice versa. I found a new love for almonds and peanut butter and a hatred for cream of wheat, and how amazing it is to meet new people and create bonds. Now, what can you do? Last fall, I went on another trip. It was much smaller than Noel's, and it was a school trip. It was for my outdoor ed class. Outdoor ed is a class that involves students in nature through rock climbing, problem solving, kayaking, and team building. For outdoor ed, we did a 4-day-long camping trip in Wisconsin. Now, there was no 100-mile-long, 1-month hike, but there was rock climbing, hot dogs, and long car rides to build bonds with. Obviously, these two trips are vastly different, but that's the beauty of it. What I took away from them and what I learned about from them are very similar. I learned about camaraderie and trusting others, leadership, and the beauty of nature. Both these trips shared that. So, you don't need some grand adventure to change your life. It could be something small, something that you can learn from, something you've never done before. You could go camping in Wisconsin for a couple of days, you could climb Mount Everest, or you could go to that school event you've never been to. There's something to be learned from every experience, no matter how big or small. So I challenge you to go out in the world, be bold, be eager to learn, avoid cream of wheat at all costs, and seek adventure. Thank you.